Last year in 2024, I went out to Bar A Barbecue and had arguably the best brisket I had that entire year. And I ate at a lot of barbecue joints. I was truly blown away, and not just by the flavor of the brisket, but I was blown away by the complexity of the brisket. I was also blown away by the mouthfeel and the tenderness and the grain structure and the fat render, so on and so forth. It was truly a remarkable brisket, and it's very rare that I'm that blown away by a piece of brisket these days. This is mostly just because I've had my fair share of brisket. I was so taken back by the quality of their brisket, I promised myself that I was going to go home and I was going to try and practice and battle test their brisket and then bring it to you guys. And one caveat is many months later, I have yet to try that, but the day has arrived. I have the time today, the weather is nice, so I figure let me go out, let me try this method of cold smoking a brisket, and let me see if I can recreate that Bar A barbecue brisket at my house. Now there's a couple housekeeping items that I have to review. We'll do that out at the pit. I'll go outside, I'll bring you guys with me. I'll kind of walk you through the methodology that I'm going to use when approaching this brisket cook. It's gonna be a little bit different, but I think it's going to yield more value for you on the other side of that camera in case you want to give this a go. Essentially what I'm saying is I'm going to go potentially botch a couple briskets in an effort to kind of figure this thing out. And then I'll deliver my 2 cents at the end to you guys. And then you can go then battle test this at home and figure out if this is a method that you want to adopt, tweak, adjust, and make your own. Before we go out there, I just want to add, if this is your first time on the channel, my name is Marcus. Virtual handshake or hug if we're family already. It's nice to meet you guys. I've been barbecuing for well over a decade. I hand built a 500-gallon smoker. I have a 1,000-gallon smoker. I have a cheap $300 offset smoker, Oklahoma Joe, from a big box store. I have a couple Traegers, and I'm saying all this to say I am a barbecue nerd. This channel was built by the people, for the people. So if it's your first time here, welcome. I ask nothing of you other than for you to have maximum enjoyment for the duration of this video. And if it's not your first time here and you've been around the channel once or twice before, well, welcome back, family. Happy to have you here. With that said, I'm gonna go grab a cigar, cut, light it, meet you guys out at the pit, and I'll give you a rundown of kind of what I'm thinking with this cook. Let's do it. Now, cold smoking is very interesting. If you're not new to the channel, then you know that I'm a self-proclaimed barbecue nerd. I nerd out about all things barbecue, and it's very rare that a new brisket process or technique surfaces that's actually new or innovative. But in this case, Bar A has publicly surfaced their entire brisket process from front to back. And first off, I think that's commendable, and I think that's awesome. It's very rare that you see barbecue restaurants, specifically in Texas, operating at the highest level, being such an open book about their systems and processes and their approach to, well, the Mac Daddy of all bites of barbecue in Texas, that being brisket. So hat tip to that note. With that said, cold smoking, it's not new or innovative in the sense that no one has done it. Frankly, there are some barbecue restaurants in Texas, a handful of them, that do use this approach to cooking brisket. The only difference is they're not raising their hand and saying, hey, we love to show you guys how we do this like Bar A does. Cooper, Caleb, Alec, and the crew at Bar A have raised their hand and said, we want to be pro the barbecue community, and we want to teach the backyard warrior like most of us. We want to teach you guys our process. So in saying that, I'm just gonna cut to Cooper giving a quick synopsis of why they started cold smoking brisket, and then kind of their approach to the cold smoke methodology, the genesis of the idea, and then their approach to the process. So we'll listen to Cooper talk about that, and then we'll jump back to me, and then I'll get this cook jumped off. Okay, it's a fly.
Salam.
This is the whole. There is a conversation going around about cold smoking briskets. Can you just walk us through your brisket process?
Yeah, so cold smoking is not anything new to barbecue. There's several places that do it. It's just something that we do here. The honest truth is we do it because we wanted to be able to pull the briskets a little bit earlier in the day. I am a dad with 2 kids, and I want to be able to go home and have dinner and put the kids to bed. And it's easier to do that when I can pull briskets at 3 or 4 o'clock versus 7 or 8 or 9 o'clock at night. So that was the entire thought process behind it for us.
Right on. How long have these briskets been on? And then are you willing to pop a door for 2 seconds and show us this?
Yeah, these went on last night about 7 o'clock. They cruised all night between like 150 and 200.
So what are you looking for right now? So they've been on, what exactly are you?
What time is it? These have been on for 17, about 18 hours now, if you include the cold smoke time. Really right now at this point, these are pretty much done. We're just trying to really finish out, render these out the last little bit hour or two here. We're making sure nothing's getting burnt on the edges or getting too crispy. Making sure we're rendering fat, getting that nice pillowy effect up top. And we're really kind of shooting to get the internal temp somewhere between 195 and 200, kind of dead in the middle of that brisket there. So we're not too far off. We're probably about 45 minutes to an hour from getting all these pulled off.
That's legit. Can you talk to me, just no pressure, all professional advice here. Can you talk to me about cooking the lean in relation to the fat? I was talking to Alec about it a little earlier, but like a lot of backyard guys, we'll get our briskets on and we'll cook like a jam up point.
Yeah.
And our lean's a little dried out. You think that's a function of the smoker or a function of temperature or what?
It could be a million different things. I think a lot of backyard guys don't close the stack down enough, because the honest truth is closing the stack, what it's doing is you're trapping in heat. So the more heat you trap, the slower the draw, the slower the crawl of that heat. It lets everything cook more evenly. If that stack is too open and you're pulling too hard, too fast, you're gonna cook one end of it that's closer to the heat source than the other end of it. So by closing the stack more, trapping more heat, making it slower and smokier, you're cooking everything at the same time more even.
That's awesome. Okay, super insightful. Cannot wait to apply that today. So here's what's gonna happen today. It's currently 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I have 2 raw briskets in the cryovac. I've not trimmed them yet. And what I'm going to do for the purpose of this video, so that you guys can get the best learning experience, learn from my trials and tribulations trying to cold smoke a brisket today, I'm going to run a mock fire, a demo fire, starting at about now, where you and I are gonna go select some wood splits. We're gonna get the instant light and we're gonna set up a bundle fire the same way they do at Bar A, and I'm gonna do it on my 500 gallon. The reason that I'm not doing this on my backyard Oklahoma Joe right off the bat is I'm about 120% certain that my Oklahoma Joe is not going to stretch out 7 hours of a cold smoke. It's just not. Doesn't have the proper efficiency. It's a very cheap backyard smoker. However, if you own a cheap backyard smoker, later in the video, I'm going to talk about ways that you can change and adjust this process for your smoking apparatus. But I say all that, I'm going to start this on my 500 gallon smoker. I'm pretty confident that my 500 gallon can buy me at least 6 hours of a cold smoke without totally destroying the brisket. Also, the reason I'm starting on the 500 is because they use a 1,000 gallon smoker, as you saw. I have a 1,000 gallon smoker, but I don't think that would help you too much. I think that a 500 gallon smoker is a really good in between. And when I say in between, I mean literally. It's in between a 250 and a 1,000 gallon. It's a really good in between for you and I to just watch this process as an unbiased third party. You and I mean literally, you on the other side of this camera and me, we're going to see how this happens together. And I think the 500 gallon is just going to give us enough space to really understand what's going on. And then from there, I'll package it up and parse it down and try to deliver some net results out to you guys that you can apply to your backyard smoker. Now, like I said earlier, I'm going to build a mock fire. So what I'm going to do for the purpose of this video is I'm going to run a bundle fire the same way they do at Bar A, but I'm not going to put any meat on the smoker. I'm going to just see how long this will run while we have daylight. And we'll check in here and there, but my goal is just to set the fire up and then I'm just going to watch it. I just want to see what it does before I introduce meat. Hopefully this fire rolls for every bit of 6 hours, which would take us right into about 8 o'clock at night. Then what I'm going to do off camera is I'm going to build an identical fire. That way you've already seen it. I'm about to do one now. You'll see me do it. I'm going to build that same fire tonight when the sun goes down. However, this time it's game time. I'm going to throw the briskets on and I'm going to let those roll. If I can get those briskets on no later than like 9 or 10 o'clock and I let them roll for 7 hours, maybe 8 at the max, I don't know yet. Somewhere between 6 to 8 hours, I'm going to let those briskets roll tonight. That should bring me into the morning when we're gonna come back once we have daylight, and then we'll finish the cook out, and then we'll slice into them and we'll see how magnificent they are. Fingers crossed, prayers up to the good Lord that it works out. So enough talking. Let's get this bundle fire going. Let's get some smoke going through the cook chamber, and then let's just monitor this fire for the next few hours. Fingers crossed it doesn't go any higher than 200, but we'll see. Okay, y'all, behold the inside of my firebox. Also, bear with me. The sun is casting a very odd shadow right here, but camera should be able to pick it up. And of course, Bar-A, they use instant light to get the fire going, so that's what we will do. And keep in mind, family, when I was there, I think Caleb, Cooper's brother, started the fire the second night I was there to get the cold smoke process started. He didn't use a lot of this instant light. I mean, that's it. That is all I'm using. Now, of course, again, they use 1,000 gallons, so they use just a tiny bit more than that, but that should be enough for this 500-gallon smoker. And then also, I have gone and hand selected a bunch of different splits. So we have 1 split, 2 split, 3 split, have our instant light underneath. And then these gaps, you can't really see it because of the angle, but there's a notch here that runs on top of these 2 logs, and then there's another notch here. I'm just gonna position another log right where these 2 notches are. So there'll be 3 on the bottom. I'll do another 2, so that's 5 there, and we'll see what we do next. Ooh, I like that. Looking good, looking good. Same deal with this guy. What I might do is shove 1 more log just right on the back there. I'm gonna set that there just because my instincts told me to do that. So what's that? 4 on the bottom, then we did 2 on top, so that's 6. And I think I'm getting close. I don't want to make this too hot. And I just realized I think they lit these instant light briquettes before they started doing their fire. So let me light this real quick. The smell of lighter fluid and wood is very nostalgic. Drop in the comments and tell me if it's the same for you. It just reminds me of like way back in the day, you know, like just a solid early 2000s cookout where this stuff was used all the time. So anyways, I digress. Smells good to me. And my assumption is all that's gonna burn off. It won't even make a difference. And we'll slowly start to light our bundle fire. So guys, this is complete. This is a complete bundle fire, and it is extremely bundled. It is very tight. I worry if I made it too tight, but because we're doing this mock cook during the day, we'll be here to monitor it and see kind of just how choked off it may or may not be. All right, friends, I have updates. I'm back with some updates. It is exactly 5:07 p.m. And here in a second, I'll go show you what the gauges are telling me, but as a foreshadow, didn't really work like I thought. So because these days I'm more of a one-man camera crew, I'm going to, I'll grab the camera, and then what we'll do is I'll show you the actually, here's what we'll do. I'll show you the temp gauge. That way you can have a point of reference for what I'll show you in the firebox. So let's go look at the temp gauge. You'll see exactly where we're at 2 hours in, and then I'll show you the firebox and we can kind of piece some things together. And a quiz for the day. Do you think we are over 150 or under 150? Guesses. Okay, so here's our middle gauge and we're at 100 degrees. Let's check our smokestack side gauge. 100. So that's not great. Let's take a peek inside of the firebox and let's see what's happening. Okay. So this guy that we put here pretty much didn't get burned at all, really. Didn't combust. And then it looks like there's another log back there that did not combust either. So maybe those 2 logs combined would have given us, I don't know, 40 minutes, probably that low and slow, maybe 40 minutes, an hour max, I would say. It's not a total failure, but boy, am I glad that I decided to do this mock test. So not a complete failure. I mean, there's no meat on the pit, so it couldn't have been a failure, and it was a mock test. And I'm glad that we decided to do the mock test because what we found out is the bundle fire that I built for one reason or another, a reason that really I don't know at this point. I don't have enough information. Haven't battle tested this enough to really deliver a concise reason for why our pit peaked. I would have to guess 30 minutes ago, maybe 40 minutes ago it peaked, and then it just descended. So as you just saw, the pit's really not hot. It's not hot enough to really cold smoke. However, because I know my pit like the back of my hand, I can make a couple inferences that I think will better inform tonight. Because again, tonight is go time. I mean, tonight's it's game time. I think I need to use more wood, which is surprising to me because I used a couple less splits than I remember the guys at Bar A using. At least I think I used a couple less splits. I actually have some footage that I shot when I was there, both in the morning at 3 a.m. when Alec got to the restaurant after the briskets had been cold smoking for, 6 or 7 hours. So I had footage there. So I went back and I looked at that. And then I also had some footage later in that same day when Caleb was building the fire.
We got about 15 or so minutes before 7. So I call it 7 o'clock this evening. Typically I start cold smoking here between 6:30 and 7:30, depending on how quick we sell out that day and how fast I want to get home. But about 7 o'clock, we've got all of our briskets loaded up. These end up being a lot bigger briskets than I initially anticipated. But we've got 28 briskets on here and 5 pork butts towards the end. But we start from smallest briskets, work our way down all the way to the biggest. Since these are so big right off the bat, it was kind of hard to really mix match them. But anyways, in terms of loading them, smallest to biggest, and then we always go fat to the door or to the wall. So you can see here, meat's exposed on your, non-burn inside. So the fat's going to go to the wall. Fat right here is going to go to the door, pretty much all the way down on these briskets. We'll get them all loaded, and then you see here, really don't want to have these pork butts here, but it's going to be a low temperature fire. So they should be all right by the time we get in the morning. If not, we'll chop them up and do something with them.
Right on. Can you explain real quick? So this whole cold smoking thing, you're going to run these briskets at 150?
Yeah, around 150-ish or so, because we want to get out here earlier tomorrow night.
Okay.
Yeah,
fair enough.
That's really our only reason as to why we did it. Before then, we'd start briskets at anywhere from 2 to 3 in the morning, and you go that process. By the time they're all cooked and ready to eat, or ready to be put up, it could be 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, which means give them another hour and a half before they come down to temp. So, you're not getting out here anywhere time between 9 and 10. Whereas when we do this process, we pretty much get the initial cold smoking done, plus we have the briskets a little bit further along in the cook. So that way when Alec gets here at 3, 4 in the morning, he's almost skipped ahead a little bit on the brisket time cook, if you will. So he starts the fire back over, and at that point we run super clean fires in order to finish out the rest of our brisket process. And so going about this, we now get to pull briskets at 12 in the afternoon and then have them in the warmers at, 2, 3 o'clock. And so we're, just get out here way earlier. That was really our only purpose. I would say, though, the big things that we've noticed doing this after a good while now is I would say our bark is a little bit more prominent. It sets a lot better with the overnight cold smoke. And we do have... there is a very good smoke flavor that comes out of this process, not overpowering, but it is there. And so we did like those two things about doing this process. But like I said, that wasn't anything we wanted to change going into it. It was simply we just wanted to get out of here earlier.
Here's what I'm going to do tonight. I'm going to build another bundle fire, minimum of 10 splits, very dense, very water heavy for the most part. I'm going to cinch everything down together, remove all semblance of an air gap. And then what I'll likely do is scoot the fire just a little bit closer to the cook chamber, so not so close to the door. That way I don't lose as much heat through the back of the smoker out through the door because it was so close. I'm going to scooch it forward just a little bit. Again, I'm just thinking out loud here, knowing my smoker and kind of knowing how it works. I'm going to build the fire tonight. I got my briskets trimmed, seasoned up. They look beautiful. They're dry brining in the refrigerator. I don't always dry brine my briskets. I don't think it's totally necessary. However, I will add this caveat. Style Switch Barbecue, they dry brine their briskets, mostly out of necessity. They trim and season the briskets the day before, and then they stick them in their big fancy walk-in coolers and they dry brine in there. And that brisket was just so good. The flavor was a lot deeper than what I get when I just lay salt and pepper in my brisket booster on and then immediately get it onto the pit. The flavor was just a little bit deeper. So anyways, they're dry brining. I'm excited to kind of play around with that. So this is one big test. I'm bringing you guys along. It's one big test. In my time of barbecuing, I haven't really done anything this different and unique. I've always made hairline adjustments to the process, but doing a totally new process, it's kind of fun and it's intriguing. So anyways, I'll let this fire die down, open the doors like I said, and then I'll come back tonight, build the fire the same way you saw earlier, just a couple more splits, a little heavier. And then the next time that you and I are hanging out again will be tomorrow morning after they've ran their course cold smoking. And I feel like a kid before Christmas. You know, it feels like Christmas Eve because I love barbecue and it's so fun. And it's so fun to cook briskets. And so thank you. Thanks for hanging out with me. And I'll say this in summary. This is going to be my signing off of this chapter of the video before we all wake up and do tomorrow and we hang out again. See you guys in the morning. Good morning. Good morning, my friends. We're back. I'm back. You've been here. I'm back the next day. It's 8 a.m. Actually, it's 8:46. 8:46 in the morning. The briskets ended up getting officially on the pit with the fire lit and all that stuff at like 11 o'clock. I was hoping to get them on closer to 9 to 10 o'clock. It's no big deal because, of course, the plan was just to let the briskets cold smoke through the night. So really didn't matter what time I got them on. Called 11 o'clock in the evening last night. And then I just checked them. It's 8:46. I just checked them. So call it, 10 hours on the pit, which is significantly longer than what the guys at Barre do. And also it's longer than what I intended to do. However, it's not like the fire was rolling the entire 10 hours. The reason why we're not at the pit right now talking about it, one is because it's really cold. It's like 32 degrees outside, and the wind chill is pretty nippy. So I'm going to try to deliver some updates here and then we'll go out there and I'll show you, but I'm going to try to save myself the time in the cold. So here's what's happening, and it's very interesting. First, looking at the fire, it's fully combusted. There's no more splits left in. It's all ashed over, which is a good sign. It means that the logs didn't fall over, or there wasn't some logs that didn't ignite and combust. So we had full combustion, which is great. That tells me that there was some smoke rolling for some portion of time. So there's that. Looking at the meat itself, it's pretty interesting. So there's a couple things to note. One, the briskets aren't as dark as what I saw at Barre Barbecue when I was there. After their cold smoke, the briskets had a very unique hue to them, kind of a dark, like a nice dark mahogany kind of thing. The surface had dried out real nice. Mine don't really have that. And then also, if you can see, there's this weird like black, I don't even know what it is. It's just like, looks like black ink bark that's set there. And I have a couple thoughts on what that is. And I'll talk about it here in a second. But overall, the briskets weren't as dark as I had hoped. Keep in mind, because it's 30 degrees out and probably got colder through the night, I felt comfortable just literally leaving them. So my plan was just, I'm going to put these briskets on. I'm going to see what they look like in the morning, and I'll just leave them there until I get to the pit in the morning. And that's because it would be no different really if I were to take the briskets and put them in my refrigerator, other than the fact that they sat in my smoker all night. But the smoker is relatively clean, given it was running a fire and there was a bunch of smoke in there and all that stuff. So anyways, I digress. I felt good about leaving the briskets in the pit. Now my theories on what that black pooling is. Again, like I said earlier in the video, I know my 500 gallon very well, and it does this interesting thing, which I'm sure other smokers do as well. It's a humidity thing. It does this interesting thing where if I run a fire in it too low for too long with really dense splits, my smoker just like pumps moisture out of the surfaces as it's trying to evaporate all of the moisture. There's not enough heat and convection moving the smoke and the moisture through fast enough. It's not evaporating that moisture out at a high enough rate. So what ends up happening is there's just a lot of moisture on the inside of my pit. And then what happens, like I've seen it, it'll drip moisture off the top and surrounding. So what I think happened was there was just an unfortunate drip hitting right on top of that spot on the brisket. And then through the course of the night, it just kind of cooked itself in there. Barring all of that, I don't know if it worked yet. Really, I don't know how long that fire ran. Again, guys, I will battle test this extensively. I'm just letting you know that this is my first attempt. I wanted to do my first attempt with you guys rather than me doing 10 of these things, getting it down packed, showing up, and then delivering you some very well packaged process. I want to make the mistakes on camera with you so you guys can learn from my mistakes, and hopefully that's a value to you. So the plan from here is I'm just essentially going to run a brisket cook. I think. I have no idea how long they're going to take. It doesn't even make sense for me to try to probe them right now because they've been sitting essentially in a refrigerator all night. So that's not going to be an accurate gauge of where those briskets are in the cook cycle. So I'm just going to have to get a fire going and run a brisket cook. And for all I know, that cold smoke could have lasted all of 2.5 hours and then died out. Or that fire could have died out 2 hours ago, which would have been ideal because that would have been about an 8-hour cold smoke. I don't know. Let's get a fire built. Let's bring these briskets back up to temp. And then I'm just going to run a normal cook. This morning, I'll build the same style of fire, still get some smoke going, but I'll probably push my temperatures closer to 225 for an hour to 2 hours. And I'll just move in 25-degree increments. I'll go 200 to 225 in that first hour. Then I'll do 225 to 250 for another hour or so. And then I'll do 275 to 285, back 90% of the cook. And then that last 10%, I'll probably jump to closer to maybe 295, 300 degrees and really lay on the convective heat. And we'll finish the briskets out in some tallow and foil, Bar-A barbecue style. So anyways, let's go start a fire and let's cook some briskets, huh? Guys, I underprepared for the cold. The Midwest, you don't know what you're gonna get. I mean, literally yesterday, it was 70 degrees. Crazy, huh? So, oh, that's heavy. Can't move that one. And then we'll build a new fire. All right, that should do it. I'm not gonna be super picky with my wood. All this wood down here I just need to get rid of anyway, so we'll just use this for reference. Kind of in the same vein as what we were trying to accomplish last night, but a little different. And then the tweak that I'm gonna make just to give me some lift off the bottom of the firebox is I'm gonna stack these two like this. I have these two basically touching, and that should give me some lift. Again, if you remember yesterday, I said that my firebox is 24 inches in diameter, so it's a little bit more narrow than that of a Syntex. So now, that should give me the lift I need, and then I'll just run some top logs across. But let me get this instant light going. That should be enough there. All right. Cigar lighter, torch. I've been pretty surprised at how hard it is to light this instant light. And what I think, although I say that and it literally just lit, so I don't know what happened yesterday. It was not happening that quick yesterday. I was gonna say maybe instant light has a shelf life. Okay, that should be lit now, maybe. The wind's not helping. Dang it. This went out again. Come on. You're kidding me. This is not lighting. What? How? This is why my butt was here at 11 o'clock trying to get this thing started. And now I'm out of darn fuel in my lighter. Come on. It's not my day. I don't understand that. Oh yeah, Insta-Light. I got something for you. Maybe you'll light now, you little bastards. Okay, now we're just going over the top. Man, I might be the weird one. I love the smell of that. As you can see, I just built a monstrosity of a fire. I don't normally do it this way, but I'm kind of over the cold and I'm over things taking longer than they should. So this is probably going to jump me right to a solid 250 degrees in this weather. And then it's going to die down and settle probably 200, 225 once a good cold bed's in there. But again, guys, I'll bring you along the whole way. I'm going to go inside and get warm and drink some coffee. See you guys in a little bit. Okay, so look at these briskets. I'm doing probably the only visual check that I'll do in this video, mostly because it is just really cold out. And I'm not saying that to complain. I'm saying that to get the point across that I do not want to continue to open this door. I'm fighting temperatures like crazy. I don't really even know why it's so difficult right now to maintain proper temperatures. I've cooked in cold weather many a times. Anyways, guys, these briskets look incredible. I mean, just the bark on it is insane. I mean, it really is. I have some further thoughts on the cold smoking process here. I can tell you right off the bat, the briskets took on color way faster. I don't think out of the gate on the initial cold smoke I got the the color and bark that I was looking for on the onset, at least not visually like what I saw at Bar A Barbecue, but I can tell you that these briskets, the color, it just fell right into place a lot faster. And then also the fat is rendering surprisingly well. The camera autofocus is trying to fight against gobs of smoke, so I hope this can focus, but this is the outside of one of the briskets on the lean side. And if you can see that, where am I? There we go. That little guy right there, look at the color on that fat render. I mean, that's what you want. These briskets are about to hit the stall, so I'm not helping that process by yapping my gums. They're getting shocked right now in this cold, so I'm going to close this door down. But I'm about to throw some foil tents on the ends of the brisket, and then I'm just going to run my temps like closer to probably 300 degrees, and I'm going to try to blow these things through the stall. This front brisket is temping at 155 degrees. That back brisket was temping at, you can't see it, but it's back there. It's temping at 165 degrees. So that back one's about to hit the stall. Frankly, it's probably in the stall, really. And like I said, I'm going to run 290 to 300, blast through the stall, and then we'll just roll like that until these briskets are done. Cold smoke, baby. Look at that. Black gold. That looks beautiful. All right, fam. Good morning again. Welcome back to the final chapter of a very well-intentioned video that went very south on me. But let's talk about what went wrong. I'll talk about what I learned, and then I'll go in the warmer, I'll grab some briskets, I'll slice them up, I'll eat it, deliver you my final thoughts, and then we'll conclude the video. So, I tried to cold smoke briskets the same way that I saw them do at Bar A Barbecue. As I've said through the entire video, it's probably the best brisket I had 2024. I'd been meaning to film this specific video for many months, just hadn't gotten around to it. Here we are. First mistake number one. At Bar A, I was with Caleb when he started the fire for the cold smoke process, and I think he started it around 7 p.m. I think 6:30 or 7. I tried to get my briskets on the pit at 9. They ended up officially being started at 11 p.m. And I woke up at 7, so that's 8 hours, and I immediately checked the gauges on the smoker and they were all dead. And not only were the dead, meaning they were at 0, there was no heat registering on my temp gauges. Not only that, but that fire was fully combusted as we saw earlier. And then in addition to that, the smoker, literally the smoker itself was freezing cold to the touch. That there was barely a semblance of heat in the ash pile, so everything had burnt out. So what does that mean? My fire had to have peaked and valleyed a long time ago, meaning it was certain nothing was certainly cold smoking for 8 hours. I would argue that fire at maximum cold smoked 4 hours max, probably 3, but we'll give it 4. Now there are some positives, there are some pros to this that we'll talk about here in a second, that for the backyard guy that doesn't have a 500 gallon or 1,000 gallon or even a 250 gallon, you got a backyard pit. I did realize something through this process though that I think is the silver bullet in this process for backyard guys. We'll talk about it in a second. Let me round out my mistakes here real quick. Next, it took me a really long time to come to the realization that for the duration of the cook yesterday, my splits were way too waterlogged. So that worries me a little bit about the final product because I just couldn't get the temps that I wanted. It's a little disappointing, you know, once you pull the camera out and you attempt to do something new and you plan on pushing it to the ether, the universe comes down and says, are you sure you want to do that? And then everything goes awry. So got the briskets on too late. The briskets didn't cold smoke for nearly as long as the process calls for. Third issue, which I didn't talk about here long form, but just to note, because that fire died down and I was asleep and I just left the briskets on, they essentially, I'm not gonna say they froze over, but they were extremely cold because essentially they were sitting in a 30-degree refrigerator. Probably was even less than that, but they were sitting in a 30-degree refrigerator for at least 4 hours, 4+ hours. So by the time I got to them, smoker was freezing cold, iced over. The briskets were really cold and hard. And so when I went to go start to cook them, I was fighting that. The briskets had to thaw. The smoker had to get hot enough to pull and draw like it should. And you guys picking up what I'm putting down? It was just like one issue after another. Let's talk about the positives. When I initially got to the briskets in the morning, at first I thought it didn't work at all. It just didn't have that deep, rich red color that I remember seeing when I was at Bar A. However, this was an objective fact. The second the briskets came up to temp enough, the briskets caught color like this. I mean, it was scary quick, like very quick. They just start, like the bark just started to darken and darken and darken. And every hour that clicked over, it was just like I could watch them darken. I could watch that bark start to set in. And that was super cool. And I can tell you that it only did that because of whatever happened through the night, that some version of that cold smoke really set them up to receive that heat and that smoke once I started cooking. In addition to that, from what I could see from the fat cap, halfway through the cook yesterday, midday, started to look, parts of the fat cap, the coloring started to look exactly what I wanted it to. Normally towards the end of a cook, it started to look like that way earlier. So that cold smoke really sets up the fat render, and then the coloration of the fat, it starts to set that in place way before. I love that. And then thirdly, I'll just throw this out there. I pulled those briskets off at 185 degrees, which is like minimum 10 degrees sooner than what I do, to be honest with you. It was just getting so late and I was fighting those temperatures and it was getting really cold. The briskets, they were in the stall for a super long time and I was just over it. So I say that because we're all just going to figure out what these briskets look like together. Because I pulled them so soon, I really didn't cook them to done. Essentially what I did is I pulled them at 185 degrees right in the middle where the flat meets the point. I temped them. They were like 183, 185. Pulled them off, put them in foil. Didn't even have beef tallow. Forgot to render and do all that stuff with the trimmings. Those are still in the fridge, so didn't even have beef tallow. Just took them right off the pit, wrapped them in foil, put them in a 145 degree warmer, and I was like, maybe they'll carry over 10 degrees, maybe they won't. We'll figure it out. So without further ado, let me get these briskets and let's slice them up. Who doesn't like brisket at 9 o'clock in the morning? Behold, our brisket. All right, let's just cut into it. So that's just a couple pieces into the lean. And it's slightly drier than I want, but all things considered, it's retained a decent amount of moisture, and that fat cap is what's impressive. It got that color early on. Look at that. Nice and gelatin-like. Okay. Well, that's really hard to beat. I mean, that is just the moisture retention from that midway point back is really impressive. All the way through. It's really nice. It's definitely firmer. I mean, you and I know that a brisket cooked to 195 is going to be more tender than 185. But again, all things considered, looks really good. Let's pull. Gosh, this thing's. That thing's oozing. Let's pull some slices from the point. Eat those on camera in a second. All right. The grain structure's there. The graining's where you want. You can see the separation of kind of all the grains that run through the point side. And then in between, there's a very fine lining of gelatin-like intermuscular kind of fat that just cooks and solidifies. And that's that bite that you want. The tender brisket is basically pre-chewed for you because it cooks down like this. That's why it comes off so tender and easy to eat. And then what makes it feel super moist is just all that intermuscular fat that's cooking. That's those two things combined plus the bark. That's what makes it that quintessential bite of barbecue. All right, let's pull a slice. Super moist. Again, we don't have mushy graining. It's very structured, very well defined. It's going to be a good bite on the tongue. And then really, really good bark, really good fat render up top. Again, like I said, I trimmed just a little bit more aggressively on the point side than I'd like, but it's life, guys. Sometimes you over trim something. Still going to be an amazing bite. Let's eat this thing. Nothing beats a morning burnt in. My goodness. Look at that bad boy. Mm. Mm, 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 mm-hmm. Yep. That cold smoke does something different. I don't know what it is. It's not as pronounced as Bar A's and definitely not as, what's the word? Refined is probably the word. But it was like nostalgic. My brain instantly remembered that brisket. The best way I could explain it would be like there's the smoke flavor that we all know. And then this way, it's almost like the brisket's meatier. Um, and the smoke is like more refined. I don't know how to explain it. It's just, man, it really is interesting. I'm gonna have to do this more. I can't yet place what it is. Mm-hmm. That'd make anyone happy. Oh yeah. I can't help myself. Let's eat this piece right off the lean cap. Mm-hmm. That's good, guys. Top ridge of that one of those point slices. And it is a thing of beauty. It's crazy. It's still, I don't know how well the camera's picking it up. It's still retaining its moisture. I mean, due to the art of production, this has been sitting on the countertop for an unhealthy amount of time. And it's just, look at the buoyancy. Something that I told the guys at Bar A that really, really took me back was the mouthfeel of their brisket. That was something I was trying to recreate in this cook. When I ate their brisket, I could tell that the people that cooked this brisket truly, truly know what they're doing. Man, that's good. Let me wash my hands and let's round the video out. What do I think about this entire thing in one sentence? I can't say anything in one sentence, so in one paragraph. I've already wasted my sentence. What do I think? 100% worth the try without a shadow of a doubt. Not just worth the try, I think it's worth battle testing a handful of times, because this process does deliver something unique enough to be worth trying. Meaning, over the years, there's been many brisket processes that I've tried, and the juice just isn't worth the squeeze. It's not worth me testing and failing and wasting money or wasting time trying to adjust or add or remove to make it make sense. However, this one, in my opinion, it's worth it. The smoke flavor was richer. It was a little bit more velvety. The bark was richer, deeper, definitely darker than what I've gotten before, much blacker. Not by a ton, but by enough to make a visual, noticeable difference. If I were a backyard warrior and all I had was, my backyard smoker, what I would probably do is, rather than cold smoking through the entire night, I would just wake up early in the morning, start your fire, go back to sleep, and then just let it cold smoke and do its thing, and then snag a couple more extra hours of sleep and then start your cook. You can very easily wake up at, 3 o'clock in the morning, throw your brisket on your pit, build a big old bundle fire with a couple instant light briquettes and light it, close everything down and just walk away. Go back to sleep. Wake up in the morning, not in a panic, because you know that for the past, 3-4 hours, your brisket's been cold smoking. It's good. Then you can wake up and just resume the cook like normal. I think you can get close to the same result. I think any decent backyard smoker, I think you could pull out, 3 to 4 hours of a cold smoke and feel comfortable about leaving everything alone while you grab some extra shut-eye. Hopefully this helps you as you're trying to learn brisket. And guys, if you're still watching this video, there's always a handful of people that would prefer me to make 8 to 12 minute videos and do all the crazy edits and stuff like I always talk about. And I just don't do that. I just long form. Think of this more as like a podcast than it is like, some crazy, highly produced YouTube cooking video. It's just not that. This is more a podcast. This is me downloading, data dumping information into you, onto you. Sounds weird. Near you, by you, around you, data dumping to you. Things that I've learned over the years of barbecuing, and then also things that I learned in the moment as we're cooking it. So if you're still hanging around and you appreciate the content, thank you. I'm not gonna ask you to subscribe, although that would help the channel a lot. But I won't ask it, because if you like what you see, you'll do that anyways. So thank you. Thank you for watching, and thank you for your support. Now, with that said, this is what barbecue is, guys. This is what barbecue is to someone who genuinely wants to get better. That's why I created this channel. I will probably say this until I have 100,000 subscribers and I don't have to say it anymore. This channel is not for everyone. This is the meat and greet. It's not for everyone, guys. This is true. I don't mean this to sound cliche. This is for the guys and girls in the back of the bag who just want to cook some darn good barbecue. That's all we want to do. We just want to nerd out. We want to learn every data piece we can. We want to perfect our craft. We take this thing very seriously. This is more than a hobby. I was gonna say something that was gonna be so cringy, I was gonna have to crawl under the table. I was gonna say this is more than this isn't just a hobby, this is a lifestyle. But really it is. At least it is for me. Barbecue is a lifestyle. So I had a bunch of fun. This was fun. And as always, I thank you. Again, love you. Big Frizz, meet and greet. Over and out.